Welcome back to TechVets, the podcast, and today we are joined by Jason, and he's joining us because Reservist Day is imminent, and we want to find out more about his tech role and how he supports the reservists as well. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Meredith. Good to be here.
Can you tell us a bit more about what reservist unit you're with and how you got into the reserves?
Around 2014, I decided I wanted to do something with my life rather than just working in the role I was in, which was service management. And I applied and joined the RAF Reserves. Tested in 2015, and then realised that it wasn't quite what I wanted. The RAF have outsourced a lot of work, a lot of the roles, and it wasn't quite what I wanted. And then I found out about SGIS, which is it's part of 13 Signals, Royal Signals, and it's a tech and cyber consultancy where we can go in and we can assist the Army and the MOD and the Navy on bringing civilian skills, knowledge, experience that they don't have in-house, and we can help them on how to do things better.
That sounds really interesting. And I think, especially in light of the recent Strategic Defence Review, where the focus is very clearly on tech, but also getting more veterans and service leavers into the reserves to provide that kind of unique skill. So what's your background? How have you got the specialist skills to be able to join that unit?
So I was a service manager in Magnox, part civil nuclear industry, and I've been doing that for about 12, 13 years. And basically, so SGIS has a number of what they call towers or service offerings. So they have a cyber tower and AI and things like that, and one of them is service management. I was also used to be a member of the BCS and was on service management special interest group. And basically, I during the interview showed the skills that I'd learned in my civilian career in service management, and there were some skills that the unit needed, and they let me join in 2021.
Wow. And for many people listening, they might not know what service management means or entails. I certainly don't. When I hear the word service, I think of service industry. But can you tell us a bit more about what you do as a service manager?
So service management is around managing the IT services that are provided to the users within a business. And in Magnox, we outsourced in 2012. So we had Atos had come in and were providing the IT service. So they had all the admin accounts, and they looked after the infrastructure that we had. And we ended up in a joint contract with Sellafield, Low Level Waste Repository, and NNL. And my job was to basically make sure that the service that was contracted was provided by Atos. And it's to basically make sure that the users and the customers within the company could do what they needed to, which was running in nuclear power stations, either generating or defueling or decommissioning, but also to work alongside Sellafield and NNL and LLWR to negotiate and making sure that we all got what we needed. We all had different priorities. So Sellafield are reprocessing fuel. They're an absolutely huge company. I think they have, at the time, they had 15,000 users, of which during the day 10,000 worked and the 5,000 were on shifts. So because each company had different priorities, it was trying to make sure that when we needed to make changes to the infrastructure, upgrade operating systems, replace services, bring in SharePoint, whatever it was about managing to coordinate that with the supplier, with the users in Magnox, but also work with the people in the other organizations so that everybody was happy with what we were going to do.
Would you say it's a tech-enabled job, or do you have to be pretty techie to do your role?
You need to understand. So for service management, you need to understand enough of a technical role so that you can understand if there's an incident and something has broken, you need to understand enough to work with the outsourcer, but then be able to translate that into just normal English, so that the user base, you can explain to them what's happened, why it's happened, what will happen, what's going to be done to resolve it, and then how long it'll be before they get their service back. So you get in the outsource with Atos, you would have a lot of techies that would speak technical language, and you'd have users that, and they'd be going, well, I can't access the internet, and the techies would be saying, well, it's this widget or gizmo over here, and it's this that's broken, and the two people wouldn't understand each other. So it was having those skills to. So you need to know enough to be able to hear what the technical person says, but then be able to translate that into just normal English.
How did you discover that you had that skill set, or what training led you into service management?
So I was originally, when I joined Magnox, I did Windows servers and second and third line support on databases and things like that. And there was 10 nuclear power stations, and we have to manage the changes. So ITIL was what I studied, which is a government framework that does service management, and I studied that. And we I attended the change board, or the change advisory board, for representing the power station I was at, that all the power stations joined. And the change manager retired. He worked at Sizewell and he got to retirement age. And because I was the most vocal on the change board, I was voluntold to be the change manager. And then I really liked being the change manager. It was a good role. I enjoyed that. It allowed me to get to know a lot of people within Sellafield and Low Level Waste Repository and NNL. And that led into, when we outsourced, I was kept within Magnox, where a number of people are two-pid away, and then I became the service manager. So I would then work with Atos and the three other companies to do what we needed. So I just built up some good rapport, some good working relationships. Um, I lived down in Kent and used to have to do a lot of meetings in Warrington, and in Crewe, which I would pass when I was driving up. That's where the Atos change people were. That's where their problem management team were. So I'd actually stop off on the way up. I'd arrange to meet people, and I'd take time out of my journey. It gave me a break from driving, but I'd actually sit down and have a coffee, and I get to know who they were as people. So rather than just be someone on the other end of a Teams call or a phone, it was actually getting to know them as people. They got to know me, and it was just building up those relationships. And then sometimes when you're sending an email or you say something in a phone call, it can be taken the wrong way because you can't obviously see body language. And building up that rapport with those people, it actually made things a lot easier because you got to know them as a human being. They got to know me, and then when you're having conversations, things were never taken out of context, and it just helped. You could ask what they would do, what was coming down the line, and then instead of just bringing you a change plan every week or a couple of change plans every week to review, you'd start to get forward notice of that they would have change plans coming up in the next 3-4 months. And I built up relationships with the technical people, so that if they were writing change plans that needed to be reviewed and approved, I would ask them to send them to me if they wanted, and then I would peer review that, and I'd then go back and suggest changes or modifications to the document. And it meant that almost every time we went to the change board where these changes would be approved, which will probably include outages to services for the business, they were getting through the change process a lot quicker and smoother because I'd had early sight and helped them to make sure that they had all the right information in.
God, that sounds like quite a lot of responsibility as well, because a lot of the time when we interview people for this podcast, they're people who've learned the soft skills interacting with people in the military, and then actually that's what employers are looking for on the outside. But you're a really good example of someone who's realised that those soft skills are actually key to getting stuff done, and then decided to take that back into the military. So you're kind of a bit topsy-turvy to the people that we normally talk to.
Yeah,
How
Magnox invested a lot of money in me. They invested a lot. I was one of the first people in the country to get ITIL expert. I think I worked out that for the hotels, the the toil, the course costs and everything, it came to about £30,000 over 2 or 3 years to cover it. And I didn't want to leave the company because I enjoyed the company at the time. We were ex-civil servants, we final salary, pension, and things like that. But I felt like I could give something back, and that's where it came to joining the military. I could stay doing the day job, but then work on weekends with the RAF and now into SGIS. So yeah, I found that it was nice to be able to give back.
What kind of qualifications or academic qualifications did you have to kind of go into this world?
So into the reserves.
Well, just kind of taking a step back to getting into becoming a service manager or change manager. What did your CV look like when you started your career? What was your kind of education, I guess?
So I did GCSEs, started to do A levels, and wasn't getting on with the academic side. So I left and joined a chemical company and was a lab technician for 3 years. Um, there, while I was there, a lot of friends had gone to uni, and I thought actually I want to do something else. So I'd done a part-time ONC in chemistry, and then decided to go to uni. So I went to Manchester Metropolitan University and did a HND in software engineering. So that's basically programming. You learn about formal methods, how to decide how you want the program to be structured without picking a programming language, and then you would pick your relevant programming language to then do what you need to do. And then that got me working for a number of companies. Eventually worked for a company in doing programming, but I also they turned around one day and said we need to roll out an NT server with a router and networking connect to some Macintosh computers. Does anybody want to do it? And at this stage, I was programming, so I put my hand up, self-taught myself. Exchange 5.5 and NT4. That would have been back in the about 1997. I self-taught me it myself, rolled that out, and then realized that I enjoyed doing the sort of like the Windows and the technical stuff with rather than programming. So then did more and more of that, and then that got me eventually. Long story was I ended up at Magnox doing servers and databases, and then I moved to Kent to be the team leader for the IT department at Dungeness Power Station.
Wow, that's quite that's quite a journey to get where you got. But I think it's really interesting to know that leaving school at GCSE with GCSEs, but your journey wasn't that, necessarily linear, as in GCSEs, A levels, degree, but that you kind of came back and so much self-learning within that journey to date. Was there any point in your life where you wished you'd joined the military earlier, as in regulars?
Yeah, I tried to join. So I had an interview with the RAF when I was 16, and if I'd have passed my GCSE English, maths, and a couple of others, they were going to sponsor me through my A levels and a degree, and then I would have gone in as a navigator. Um, and I didn't get quite the grades, which then led me down the route I went. Um, if I could talk to myself, if I could go back and talk to myself when I was 16, I would probably now, in hindsight, look at joining the Royal Signals. I like the RAF, but the problem with the RAF is that they've outsourced so much that depending what you want to work in, it's just not there. And the RAF is so small. Um, Also with the RAF, I did a number of mobilisations, and people, you get trained up in the trade group, you do IT, you go somewhere, and then when you're posted, you are posted individually somewhere else. Whereas I find that with like the army, the whole unit's posted. So I found that when I was mobilised, I was mobilised to RAF Waddington a couple of times. I was mobilised for op rescript. I found that when you went there, I thought that everybody would socialise in the evening, and it's just got to a point where, especially in the RAF, they don't have the accommodation on base, so they've encouraged people to go and live off base. So you get to 5:30 at night, and the RAF bases, it's just tumbleweeds everywhere. There's no one around. There's no There's no getting together with people. There's no social life. Everybody who's there that's a junior rank is more than likely in their room playing on a computer of some description. It's just not what you thought it would be. Where what I'm seeing within the army, especially in SGIS now, a lot of ex-regulars are joining the unit over time, and everybody knows each other. And yeah, I think I think in hindsight, yes, I think I would have liked to have joined the Royal Signals when I was probably 18.
Well, what does SGIS stand for?
So Special Group Information Services. So it's a specialist reserve unit. So we do minimum of 19 days a year. We don't use weapons. We our laptop is effectively our weapon. So we're there to do tech and cyber consultancy.
And from deciding that you wanted to join the group, what was the lead time? So I know it was probably a bit different for you because if you're already in the RAF, you probably already had things like security clearance swept up. But for someone who might be listening, thinking that sounds like a really interesting unit, I've got the right skill set, what can they kind of expect from the point where they say, yeah, I'm interested, to actually doing something?
So there's a number of permutations for joining, whether you've never served, you're ex-regular, who's just left, or your ex-regular that left a while ago, or you're a reservist that's in a different unit. So for me, I interviewed, had to go for enhanced clearance, and then I had to quit the RAF. You're not allowed to do a transfer. You from service to service, you actually have to leave one and then join the other. So as soon as I'd done enough days to guarantee my end of year certificate of efficiency, because I didn't want to miss out on the certificate of efficiency. As soon as that had happened, I handed my notice in, and a couple of months later, when I got the letter to say thank you, you've left now, I notified SGS, and 2 days later, that was it. I was in, and off I went. If you're currently, the advice would be is if you're currently serving, regardless of which service you're in, if you think you can join, then apply, go through the interview process, and if you're still joining, you're still serving, you effectively will leave regular service on day one and become a member on day two. Or if you're in a different reserve unit, like a different Royal Signals unit, you go through the interview, and there'll be a date where you transfer from one to the other, and it's as simple as that. So if you're still in, it's easy. I would advise anybody who's serving, who's thinking of going into the reserves, do it before you leave. It's a lot easier.
How do you think it sits with your day job? Do you find it overwhelming to do your day job but also commit to the reserves, or how do you manage it?
So I now work for Thales, and I do cybersecurity on the products that we sell. Almost everything I'm working on is actually bought by the MOD. So while I'm looking at the security of the products we sell, I'm quite conscious that there may be people I've met or will meet that will use these. So I feel that I've got skin in the game to make sure that I do my job properly, my day job. I'm lucky. Thales has signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant. I can get an extra 10 days paid leave every year. And I've never had any problem booking that. I just book it on the system and away it goes. I don't have to justify anything. It can be free. I could just book the 10 days to do anything I want as long as it's for the reserves. A lot of the people I work with are actually former Royal Signals. The company is really happy about people being a member of the reserves. We have an armed forces network. You have any questions? If you're a new starter, to tell us, and you want to get to know people, then you can just join the armed forces network, and away you go. I find that the company's good, and I think it fits well. There's you start to learn things. There is a conflict of interest. So I have to be aware of that. It's something that SGIS make us sign up to. So we sign up to say we won't have a conflict of interest. And sometimes there will be taskings that we're going to do for SGS that come up, and I'm not allowed to be involved in them. So there was one where there was a troll for people with skills. I had the skill set, and then found out that it was to help the MOD with a new contract, and there was a number of bidders, and one of those bidders was Telus. So I had to excuse myself, and I stepped away from that, and I have no idea how that went. So I think actually that's probably the hardest bit, is sometimes that you look at a task that you might want to get involved in, and you can't because there's a conflict there.
That must be really tough, and I guess it depends on your own. I can't think of the word that I'm looking for, but integrity to put your hand in the air and say, you know, I can't touch that because of conflict of interest as well? Or is it on the individual, or do they kind of know that by the data they hold on you?
It is down to the individual, but I believe that aligns with things like the service test. As an individual in the military, you have to have integrity, and you have to have that confidence to be able to speak up. So I think that anybody who's in the military that will be in the same position will just it's not something you have to second guess, because it's just part of who we are when we do the job that we do. And it works both ways. I've got to make sure that work don't pressurize me to say, well, if you know about this in your reserve job, can you come and help Talis get a contract? So I make sure that I'm kept away. So if there's yeah, I make sure that it's segregated and the two don't mix, and work know that.
How do you find the reaction to you? Because I guess if you go into somewhere with a lance corporal's rank slide on, you know, they're not to know that you're necessarily, they're not to know that you're a specialist reservist. Do you think that's a kind of a barrier, or do you think the regulars understand the use of specialists now?
I think that if SGIS has not been somewhere, I think there's still some old military people that take a look at the rank slide, and that influences how they would react to what you say. But SGIS itself has done some very good work, and the reputation is going through the army. And I think that people are now realizing that the quality of the people I work with in SGIS, and they see that and they're going, right, okay, we know that that I mean, I think over 50% of people in the unit are captains. So there's not a lot of junior ranks, but I think that people are starting to look past the rank and actually looking at you. A lot of time when we get into we meet people for the first time, we actually explain what our day job is, and a lot of times that puts people, they sit back a bit and go, oh right, okay, so you're not just a lance corporal or a corporal or a sergeant, you actually, this is what you do in your day job, and they actually understand that makes the difference. Working for Talis, I actually think that helps as well, because I can talk about some of the stuff I've worked on in Talis, and they realize that I'm securing products that people are using on the front line and things like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, this just isn't your bog standard lance corporal.
I think that's really interesting. But also, does it mean that defence is getting this consultancy or your expertise on the cheap? So, in terms of remuneration, is it easy for you, or even if you want to, is it easy for you to go up the ranks and improve, you know, what you're paid, or how does that work?
So we don't do this for the money. It's with my day job. I think as a lance corporal, when I was a lance corporal, I think after tax I was earning £40 a day. So it is not being done for the money. I really like the people in SJIS. They're real fun to socialise with and to get to know. Everybody has different things that they get out of being in the reserves. I mean, for me, I wouldn't be where I am now in Talis if it wasn't for SGIS. I was enjoying my time at Magnox, and I joined the RAF Reserves because I wanted to do something different. Once I joined SGIS and I was working with people across defence industry and other places, and I was looking at what they're doing and then realizing that the senior management saw me in the same light, that gave me the confidence, and that gave me the confidence to move into cybersecurity. I self-studied for it, but I moved into cybersecurity, and then I moved to the CAA, and then into Talis. So yeah, you're right, they do get us on the cheap, and it's one of the things that SGIS explains to the army, is that for every technical concentration, they're paying us at rank, and they get in lance corps sergeants, whatever, consultants that could be charged £1,000 or £1,500 a day, depending on who they get. So yeah, the army does now see the financial benefit from it, but everybody does it because they enjoy doing it. It's good fun. I enjoy working with all the different people. Have a couple of beers. Yeah, it's really good.
If there's anybody listening who wants to find out a bit more about SGIS, and just see if they, you know, how do you apply, how do you go for it, or just some advice from you on how you've managed your career to date, what's the best way of people getting hold of you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. If people want to find me on LinkedIn, if they're a member of TechVets, then just reach out to me as a volunteer on TechVets. And the other thing is, if you look for 254 Squadron on the MOD's website, it does bring up the SGIS's page, and in there, I think there is the details for recruitment that you can apply for.
That's really helpful. And finally, because I mean, I should have probably asked you about TechVets earlier, but I got too engrossed in your story. What role has TechVets played in all of this?
That's a good question. Again, I think it's given me a good network of people to talk through on the Discord server. You can have a laugh, but also it's helped me prep for interviews. It's helped me look at different training. I was a service manager at Joint TechVets, and I wanted to move into cybersecurity, and I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. So there was a lot of very good people on there that were experienced and in different roles, and it was good to talk to people and learn about different roles, see what there is, to then help me gauge and look at where I wanted to go, and that's where I've got into now. One of the things I did during lockdown is that a lot of people will join TechVets and want to be a pen tester, and it seems that they want to be in the hoodie, sat in a dark room, clicking keys on the keyboard. And there's a lot more out there. So during lockdown with TechVets, I ended up running fireside chats. So I got project managers and pen testers and blue teamers and all sorts. And I ran about 10 or 12 sessions over Teams or Zoom, where I brought a specialist in and people from TechVets could come and join and listen in and ask questions. And it was all about, how did you get to where you were? What would you do again? What wouldn't you do again? What was good at, if you were good, if somebody wanted to apply for your job, what would make them stand out on a CV? If they if you were hiring, and what would you be looking for, and that sort of thing. So I've done that through TechVets, and that's really nice because it was able to give back. And there's a couple of people that I've helped with prep for interviews. They've shown me their presentations. We've gone through it, and I've helped a couple of people with CVs as well. I've done it 2 or 3 times, and everybody I've helped has ended up within a job within a couple of months of starting to help them. Which, yeah, it's really nice to be able to help somebody, and then a couple of months later they've got the job that they want, and some of them have been giving back to TechVets as well. So it's all about giving back. Yeah, and it's real fun.
You know you're going to get inundated with people asking you to review their CV and give them tips on interviews now.
We'll see.
Brilliant. All right. Well, Jason, I'll let you go now, but thank you for joining us today. And as we mentioned, you can find Jason on LinkedIn or within the TechVets Discord, and do reach out if you want to find out any more about his reserve service and how to join SGIS. That is right, isn't it? The right acronym? Yeah.
That's correct. Yes.
Just make sure I get it right. And also to find out about how you could too become a service manager, or prior to that, change manager. I guess there's so many strings to your bow that people could ask you about. So thank you very much, Jason, for joining us today. It's hugely appreciated.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.